where the money is, the hands want to be and go. In this case, are the hands that are seeking to have a bit of the cash at the NSSF supposed to be there, or is that kind of arrangement even legal and or constitutional? Just a preamble on this particular dialogue while meeting with the Gender Minister and the NSSF Board of Directors on the 22nd of December 2022 to discuss the renewal of Richard Byarugaba's contract as the Managing Director of National Social Security Fund, which had expired on November the 30th. It is reported that President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni ordered that Richard Byarugaba be investigated for alleged abuse of office, corruption and mismanagement of the fund's projects. This was on a strong basis after a 22-page petition signed by over 100 workers to launch that particular investigation. And of course, apparently, the board chairman, Mr. Peter Chimboa, was also behind that, or has the backing of Peter Chimboa. Here at Morning at NTV, there's a lot we need to put together too, especially when it comes to what is happening at NSSF. Is the position of Managing Director jinxed, or it's a case of Mr. Richard Byarugaba failing to toe the line as required? This morning, I'm joined by economists. Richard Matua is here with me. A very good morning, Mr. Matua.
Economist is Dr.
You're an analyst.
I am a politician and a Pan-Africanist.
And that makes him a very good economist.
Okay, interesting there. Yeah. Well, I'll refer to you as the politician that you want.
You can call me even the petitioner now, for that matter.
The petitioner.
I petition.
Your petition.
Yes.
No doubt. Perfect. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, researcher, economist. I liked the research aspect.
It's one of our best
as we were coming on air. You research on so many things. I was taken aback. I was like, even this, you can research.
You can research everything.
All right. Yes. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Happy New Year, since I'm seeing you for the very first time,
Happy New Year to you too, and my panelists here and the people out there.
No doubt. Now, National Social Security Fund at the crossroads. There's a lot that we are going to be talking about. First and foremost, we are emboldened by the fact that Mr. Matua is a petitioner.
Yes. In
this particular case. First, bring us up to speed with what the bone of contention is with regard to the petition that you're driving.
Very good. Thank you very much, my brother Higeni. Good morning, our viewers. And of course, good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, how are you?
You know, he's one of the people I respect so much in this country.
No doubt.
One, pleasure. Very patriotic, and his focus seems to be Project Uganda. Now, when somebody's focus is Project Uganda, yes, these are the people we need in this country.
Okay.
Countrymen and women, I want to say that the workers of Uganda deserve better. The people of Uganda deserve better. The leadership of Uganda must create that betterness for the people of Uganda. The people of Uganda must have guarantee for their social security, consistent with my philosophy, my political ideology, and modus operandi of a better Uganda for all. As you may be aware, the only portfolio we have of a mass saving, brother, in this country is a National Social Security Fund. A fund which is now valued at 17.9 trillion Ugandan shilling. So when you round that into dollars, it will be about 5.3 billion US dollars. Now, this is a critical thing that we must all be interested in as the people of Uganda to ensure that actually it is very well managed. That's number one.
That's right.
But number two, that it really provides the stimulation we need for economic growth of this country, considering what it has done elsewhere, like in Asian Tigers. If you go to the Asian Tigers, their social security fund to GDP is about 30% of the GDP. Now ours is still 12.4%. If you go to Namibia, Doctor was looking at Namibia. Namibia's social security fund is 103% of the GDP of the country. Now in such a situation, you cannot even go and borrow outside to do projects here. that NSSF itself would be the one to do government projects, and then government would be paying NSSF, our money would remain in the country here, then we would have declared ourselves economically independent.
Good.
We would do away with the borrowing from World Bank, from Export-Import Bank of China, African Development Bank, and what have you.
Yeah.
Now, what is the bone of contention, to answer you? Countrymen and women, whereas we have accumulated a critical sum of money in that portfolio, the criminals in this country are picking interest in that money. This is something we must talk about. The enemies, the saboteurs of this country are taking interest in that money. So there are irregular activities reported to be taking place with our NSSF. Two, the fund is not growing. The fund is stagnated. You get the point? At 1.3 million savers, of which 630,000 are actively saving. The rest have dormant accounts. Now, the question is, what is the management of NSSF doing to grow the fund? What is the management of NSSF doing to ensure that the money of workers that is saved with them is safe and is attracting serious interest?
Yeah.
You get the point? So they were petitioned by procurement department of NSSF, petitioned by workers. These petitioners attracted my interest to dig deeper, and then I had to petition when the Right Honorable Prime Minister asked the Minister for Gender to appoint the MOD. You cannot appoint somebody when there are questions to be answered. The first thing should be to answer the questions. Then if the questions are answered well, appointment can come on.
Okay, Mr. Richard Mutua.
In a nutshell, what I can say is that there are issues with the NSSF.
Can you outline very quickly, before I go to Dr. Fred Muhumuza, the other aspects of the petition? What away from what is the specific accusation, allegation? What are the things that you have put together against management or against, for example, the person of Richard Byarugaba? My
petition has 10 grounds.
10 grounds.
10 grounds.
List them, please.
And I think I will shortly list them after here. But one of my grounds is that Mr. Byarugaba Richard has reached 60 years, which is mandatory for retirement of employees, consistent with public service standard order.
That's right.
Now, and he has served there for 12 years. The law, NSSF Act, Section 39 and 40, that deals with the appointment of managing director and deputy managing director, states that you are appointed for 5 years term, renewable once. This man has served for 12 years. In other words, he has exhausted his stay in NSSF. So by law, he's supposed to give way. But a legal opinion was issued by Attorney General to overrule the opinion of Solicitor General to the effect that these people should be given 5 full year term of service. That was the first condition I put. Two,
quickly, let's go through them.
Second, there are very many cases where people are having NSSF money deducted and they are not being remitted. There are very many companies, about 20 of them with the registered cases. There are allegations that actually there are individuals who are being bribed within NSSF and the Ministry of Finance to prevent, to shield those companies from remitting the NSSF saving. Accordingly, we have over 200 billion of NSSF money that is pending, which has not been remitted to NSSF.
That's right.
That's it. Then we have the issue of NSSF project with questions. The Penson Tower, the Luboa project. Procurement Department of NSSF raised the red flag, raised the petition to the minister and to the president demanding for investigation because there were issues with it. Then we have the issue of members' benefit. I would like us to give really a good time for this. NSSF must benefit the saver. It must benefit the members of NSSF. even access to mid-term benefit is becoming difficult. My own friend, Kada Baguma Gerard Mutiba from Wera Kasese, applied in October, and up to now, he has not received his money. Even getting the mid-term benefit is becoming another difficult thing. So the question is, what is wrong with the money? What is wrong with the fund? Is it there?
All right. There's a lot that we are going to, of course, to nibble on. Yes. And I can see this is going to be a little exhaustive. Allow me, before we go into the other aspects that yes. are the nitty-gritty of this conversation, yes. to get your overview on his sentiments, the contents of his petition, but also the greater scheme of things in what is happening when you look at NSSF. I'm trying to, there's a lot to ponder on right here.
I think you selected the right topic, and you put me at a crossroad myself. And like Patricia has to,
no doubt.
We don't know where are the lights. Sometimes I enjoy it when the police comes in and overwrite the traffic lights to sort out the crossroad issues underneath. He raises quite a number of fundamental issues, but at operational level, but also which have implications at strategic level. Because if you can't recover 200 billion for people, that's operational. It needs to be addressed because those savers have their money deducted and is sitting somewhere. So somewhere, somebody in between is using that money.
Yes.
If it's not in the fund.
The money is not in space.
The money is not in space. But also now, when you go to finally enforce, the law is very clear. Bring in the money, but also you must bring in the interest that this money should have earned. So that company itself, whatever it is laying itself for a future collapse or other significant challenges. But at strategic level, it raises issues of governance. And I think this is real, as one would say. The Clinton administration, I liked it when they were coming in 1992. They said this is economy stupid. You don't know what this election is about? Clinton election.
It's economy stupid.
It's economy stupid. So I think this would be political economy stupid. This is an environment of a political economy. Political economy literally is saying who are the powerful, what are their interests? And who are the less powerful and what are their interests? Now quite often you'll find people with power but who have limited interest. Now you begin to reach a level where the bulk of the governance and the governance decisions being made at the fund are by people who do not have money in the fund. Or so their interest in the fund is limited and yet they are powerful. Now people thought that would be resolved by bringing in the workers on the board. Let's bring the workers representative. And I was at the Ministry of Finance when we debated these kind of things. I was at the heart of it all. I said to you people, do they have the power to manage a fund of this size, given where they are coming from? I can understand their interest. They have a big interest, but they certainly have little power. Even when you put them on the board, that does not make them powerful.
Doesn't make them powerful,
And professionally and in governance structures, that's why I'll put my child to school. They're doing some subjects I could have taught them myself. But at this point, I can't. When you go to court, why do you hire a lawyer? The case is yours. You have interest,
they can't speak.
but you do not have that power to engage court legalities. So you hire a lawyer who has power. He has no or limited interest. You're actually buying his interest.
You're buying his interest,
But he has power. He has no interest in your case, but now you want to buy him and get him interested in your case. So we said it is true. The workers have an interest, but they don't have power. And not even putting them on the board will do that. Can we find a way of finding people who will represent the workers' interest and can actually engage at board level? Now, that line of thought was, of course, fought by the workers themselves, who insisted, we want to sit on the board. Now, when you come on the board like that, we tried again another window. We said, fine, can we have a fit and proper test for who comes on the board? The central bank is very keen in doing these kinds of things for people who sit on the boards of banks. In World Vision, where I spent some good time there, is what we call an absentee stakeholder. Me and you, who save in the fund, we absentee stakeholders. But we can only be protected and represented by the board. Now you need the board members who understand the interests of the absentee stakeholder, but also the engagement on the road, which is managing this huge trillion fund. So it is easy to come and tell you, we are building, we have invested here. the board should be able to question that. The board should be able to understand that. And I remember one of my duties at the Ministry of Finance was literally to go through line by line the budget of the fund before it would be approved.
That's right.
Now I hear some of the quotations are budget lines.
Yes.
And I can remember very clearly some of the things we used to reject them. We would say, people, this is not going to take the fund anywhere.
Yeah.
Even if you are giving people 15%, the bulk of the fund members have 3 million, 5 million.
Yeah. In fact, some of us, when the interest rates are announced, then there is that grand event, and then when the message comes through, you're
it's
still
10%. 10% of 3 million, that's 300,000.
You're still within.
Are you helping this person? Now, these will be strategic level issues to question on the investment.
Yeah.
And I'm really saddened that I haven't read all the correspondence. Maybe they are somewhere. That the minister supposed to be in charge of appointment is the one now questioning issues of investment. Because these are supposed to be the docket of the Ministry of Finance.
Of Finance, not Labour.
Not Ministry of Labour. At least they should be handling them jointly now that there is that conversation. But the whole point is a governance issue, because we are dealing with a political economy issue where people are interested, have interests.
Isn't this the whole mandate issue? Doesn't it come down to the fact that either NSSF is misplaced and it's causing contention between the two ministries? Should it, or under which ministry, ideally, should a pension fund be?
Of course, there has been that debate, and it goes back to the conversation I've said, who is the best fit to protect the interest of the workers? Yes. Now, it was in the Ministry of Labour because it looks under issues of labourers.
Yeah.
The president at that point, in his wisdom, and whichever person he had a conversation with, said, fine, the interest is of the workers, but this is an investment fund. The best way to manage its funding, let's put it under the Ministry of Finance. The assumption was the Ministry of Finance is so keen on investments to even grow the economy, not just managing the fund. But remember, this is your pot of 17 trillion. If well deployed, it can do a lot to this economy. So that was the wisdom of moving it there. Now, all the Labour came back and said, okay, can we have a conversation now? There was a win-win. Okay, apportion to people to this one take responsibility of this one take. But that wouldn't be for me the biggest problem. Because the bulk of these decisions are still discussed in cabinet. Yeah. The two ministers can still sit in a boardroom with the board, with the management of the fund, and resolve issues. Bottom line is, it doesn't matter who has signed on, but have the two ministers representing cabinet and representing government held the interest of the savers in those meetings.
But do you realize in our economy, it matters who has signed on?
It matters, but we all sit in meetings, and who signs on the minutes? It's the chair and the secretary. But we all are bound by that conversation. So I think those are the issues for me which have a governance nature. He has raised another issue. If it is 2-term limits, 1-term renewable once, no matter how good you are,
go and try it somewhere.
I have seen banks in this country whose CEOs have really moved them, and they have moved on. The bank would have said, oh, the guy has done very well. No, you don't invoke good performance to retain the job because you were not there. If the law must uphold, please stop there and move on. Me buying a big car does not give me the rights on the road over the other people who are road users to say, but my car has better performance. So we need to get back to those governance issues. We need to understand the NSA is operating in a political economy environment, and the best way to deal with individual interests and protect the powerless but who have an interest but no power is governance.
Allow us engage Mr. Matua.
Before you could go away, the pertinent issues I could respond
you want to respond to him?
He has raised.
Please quickly before I come in with my question, because it's also very pertinent.
Yes, okay. First of all, I want to thank the doctor very much.
All right.
You know, doctor has been very central in the economy issues of this country. But there are three basic things I must put right. One, the new amendment, the NSSF Amendment Act, now which is 2022, places NSSF under two ministries. Investment, supervision, investment roles still remain at Ministry of Finance. The rest of the duties moved back to the line ministry. You know, in Ministry of Finance, there is no structure there where NSSF is placed. So the money was also there in space. In fact, doctor, that one created another wing.
In fact, the amendment could have sorted that as well, because now you don't leave the minister there, and the law doesn't back him up.
Now, in Ministry of Labour, there is a full Department of Labour where a structure is existing, up to even the district, local government.
Is the structure fit for purpose?
Actually, it is fit. That is why, in the wisdom of the MPs, they decided to place this fund under 2 ministries. And I can tell you, I want to thank them very much. Part of the smoke we are seeing is the good work of that decision. Otherwise, when it was in Ministry of Labor alone, we saw the chaos. When it went to Ministry of Finance alone, we saw the chaos. Now it is when it is in the 2 ministries that we are now seeing a white smoke.
There is a semblance of balance and checks.
There's a balance.
But smoke has always been in that fund for time immemorial. And black smoke this time.
This time the smoke I'm talking about is in the interest of the saver. It has come early.
Okay.
Now, there are 3 key issues I want to put forward.
Quickly.
One, NSSF contributions are primarily got from members.
Yes.
So there is the need to grow the membership from the current 1.3 million to the target of 15 million by 2025. Take note of that. According to National Bureau of Statistics, Uganda's working age group is made up of a population of 15 million people who actually should be saving for the social security. Now we only have 1.3 million. I want the management of NSSF to explain to me what they were doing. Why are we stagnated on those numbers? Out of the 15 million, this is a very, very absurd statistics. Out of 15 million working people, you only have in your database 1.3 million people. Of the 1.3, only 630,000 are actively saving.
Dr. Muhumuza.
We will come to that. Let me bring this forward.
Okay, please do, because we need to understand why the workforce is unable to be, brought into the docket where we can get those remittances.
It's also a misconception by the NSSF itself.
Okay, you will.
And we'll get to that.
Yes, yeah. Now, so you can see that we have denied ourselves a critical sum of money that would be brought together in this pool if we had increased the enrollment and enlisted more workers to reach the 15 million target. Now, the minister's interest is that angle there. That can we really scale up the number of employees? You get me? Remember, there were a question of the 6 billion on minister. I don't know if somewhere there we shall discuss about it.
Those are allegations.
That I will want to clear air about because because I want us to reflect.
That is if you have concrete evidence on that. We do not want you to add to speculation.
The evidence is the operating budget of NSSF that I request the producer to put here. Which is the right there.
The National Social Security Fund operating budget.
2022 to 2023.
That's right.
Now you can see there, down there, there is a 6 billion allocated for the very purpose of going to increase the number of savers, to enforce compliance. Are you seeing that? To enforce compliance. Now, that money is in the budget of NSSF. Now, that is the money the minister is falsely being accused of what? Of wanting to take it.
Of seeking as a bribe.
As if that money is going to Ministry of Labor. That money is to be used by NSSF itself in its operating budget. The minister's guidance is that because Ministry of Labor has structured in district, the labor supervising officer, then the NSSF officers should liaise with the labor officers of Ministry of Labor in the district to enforce compliance.
All right, there we have 220 billion shillings.
That is the total budget.
That is the total operating budget.
Now you see meals and tea.
Meals and tea?
10 billion plus.
Let me just, all right.
I think
you're questioning that?
I think you guys at Serena are the ones who served him.
No, have you seen it? Meals alone, we allocated 10 billion, but the real money to raise the enrollment of members,
that's right,
to bring more money in NSSF is given 6 billion. I want people to study that figure and tell me, look at the money for directors, directors, next to the one for 6 billion here.
Just a moment.
About 60.
Directors' allowances and expenses amount to 4 billion 767 million Uganda shillings.
Almost close to the 6 billion allocated for a country-wide activity to bring more savers, including even those in diaspora.
Advertising and promotion, 6 billion 239 million Uganda shillings.
Yes. Now I want.
Are we poor?
Now,
maybe now we know why we are poor.
Now, I want countrymen and women to study these figures.
All right.
And make a sense of them.
By the way, for those that could be having a little bit of trouble seeing those figures, I'll be sharing on my Twitter account very shortly, so
Yes.
go and follow at Chris Higenyi. I'll be putting this operational budget there for you so you can be part of the conversation in more detail there.
So moving forward, I want to finish this key issue. So my brother, it is therefore very important that NSSF and the Ministry of Labor go out there and bring in more Ugandans to save, to guarantee their social security. That we only have 1.3 million people in the database out of the 15 million people. This is a national disaster in waiting.
Dr. Muhumuza, I want you to respond, but if you can, you are in position. You said earlier that you have been part and parcel and buried the thick and thin of reading the NSSF budget line by line, and you have concerns that have been raised in this very aspect. Please raise them, but most importantly, bring us up to speed with why NSSF is unable to bring in the greater pool of employees in order to raise what is virtually very fundamental, the fact that savers make up the primary source of money.
Yeah, I think the main misconception at the fund, and has always been there because people wanted people to come in, and I can see they have even failed to bring them in, was an argument that it is the only way people can save for their future. So if you are not here, you are not saving. That was the assumption. So whoever is not with the fund, saving with the fund, is not saving at all. And we said, no, that's not true. This country, Uganda, needs a social protection policy. And social protection looks at pension, which can be for people who are working. But there are many other Ugandans, and we told them, who are saving out there. People are building themselves small rentals for retirement.
That's right.
People are educating their children. And we know children and how they are related to their retirement. So if you brought in a social protection policy and vulnerable and all sorts of old age, you'd be able to see that providing for a person in old age who has retired goes beyond NSSF. It now also includes, are we investing in those particular diseases that drain these people's incomes when they grow old?
Very good.
Because as you grow old, you're going to get diabetes, you're going to get all sorts of things. Now, you are going to retire in Katakwi, you're going to retire in Kikube, you're going to retire in Kalangala. What hospital is there to manage your diabetes? You'll find that every month you have to come to Kampala for treatment. And all your savings will be wiped out by that. So social protection policy looks at a broader scope.
That's right.
On how do we attend to the aged people. That's why some countries like Germany want, I think, 350,000 people every year, almost every year.
All right.
To attend to the aging population when they have a non-aging population. Japan is dealing with the same issue. So Uganda may move in that direction. But even before we do, the whole social protection policy is missing in the country.
Yes, yes.
And that would give a context to the contribution of NSSF in that bigger space.
There's a lot
Maybe
that we have to...
There's something very, very, very significant here.
If you can use 40 seconds.
At least 2 minutes.
40 seconds, then I'll give you 2 minutes a little bit later. Okay. Let me first go into a break. When we return, this conversation will continue. We shall also have an update on the latest on the ground with our man Stephen Mbide, who is out there within...
You're watching Morning at NTV.
Went with us into the break. If you're just joining us, welcome on board. You're watching Morning at NTV. The hashtag on Twitter is Morning at NTV. We are also streaming live on Facebook as well as on YouTube for those that are watching from across the oceans. Do follow at Chris Higenyi. There's something that we've just posted for you there. And of course, understand exactly what we are talking about. The operational budget of the National Social Security Fund, 220 billion Uganda shillings. That is the money, including allowances for directors. There's also some money, 6 billion. Like one of my panelists has been saying, that is geared towards ensuring that collections do increase. Currently, 1.5 million savers in a country that has registered 15 million workers who can be able to remit some money there. But is that money being remitted? That is one question. For those companies that are not remitting the money, it is understood or reported that some of them are in some kind of syndicate to be able to be let off the hook when it comes to not paying that money. Well, Richard Matua is here with me, politician and analyst, and of course joined by the indefatigable Dr. Fred Muhumuza, an economist and a researcher. First, we had a conversation before we went into the break, one that was expounded on during the break. The money that savers do remit to the National Social Security Fund, what is it doing?
Very good. Thank you very much. Viewers, I thank you very much for staying tuned to NTV, which is actually the most respected national television where conversations that matter take place. We are honored. Now, let us address the issue. What is the money of savers doing with NSSF? Mark, NSSF is supposed to invest this money to get profit, interest for the saver. 17.9 trillion money could attract very critical investment and raise serious interest that Mr. Higeni, whose money is there, could at the end of financial year even get 30% of the interest.
That's right.
So the question is, what is this money doing? Countrymen and women, let me put the facts before you.
Please do.
NSSF invests money of the savers in government securities, treasury bills and treasury bonds. That is the area which has been bringing some profit for the member. And also invest this money in real estates. Now I have questions with investment in real estate. The ventures undertaken are too expensive even for ordinary saver to afford. I cannot afford any of the houses at Iloboa. A house of 400 million. How many savers, how many of these poor savers of NSSF can be able to afford those houses? Now what has been happening is that NSSF invested 400 billion in a pension tower since 2006, and it has not been completed. Now that money is locked there. Now interest has not come since 2006. NSSF invested money in Temangalo land and housing. The money is still locked there since 2004. The profits are not coming. And then the project in Luboa, where we have 300 houses completed, housing units completed, out of the 2,700 housing units we intend to build. Of the 300 housing units completed, only 2 have been booked, not even bought, booked. Now, savers' money is locked in real estate investment that are simply white elephants. You get the point?
I do.
That explains why, at the end of the day, members cannot get big interest. That explains why the minister is asking, how can the board and NSF management strategically think to leverage the investment to ensure that the savers get better earnings, better interest, better profit?
Dr. Muhumuza.
Thank you.
Investment portfolios within the reach of the National Social Security Fund. We've often been told about the fact that we are even listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, and we are doing a lot of incursions when it comes to what is no doubt East Africa's premier financial system. What do we know?
Yeah, what we know is, of course, what keeps coming out here and there. NSSF necessarily invests in listed companies. It's not supposed to be listed itself, but it invests in listed companies. And the whole point is literally two. One, protect the value of the members' savings.
The savings, yeah.
Yes.
How do you protect the value? Don't lose the original contribution, the 15% they send in. But because we know money has a time value to it, keep investing so that a person who gave you 10 million in 2020, when they come to retire in 2035, you don't give them 10 million.
Sure.
You give them more.
More.
You have protected the value.
A lot more than what they...
Yes, you have protected the value.
Yeah.
Now that is on the fund's side in its relationship with the direct relationship with the savers. Two is use these funds, and this is why the government aspect comes in, because you know government is not in insurance companies. They are also having monies of people who put there, and eventuality may not happen.
That's right.
But these are the two major sources of long-term financing in an economy. And we know Uganda is in a deficit of long-term financing. We have even been blaming commercial banks that are charging us too high. But because we are going for commercial bank money to do long-term investments. So have a debt-asset mismatch. Your debt is short-term. The asset you want to build is long-term. So the problem is not with the banks, but the problem is that this economy is in a very big deficit of long-term financing, which can only come from NSSF and pension and insurance companies. Now, how does NSSF help there if that connection was working well? That not only have you helped this person who gave you 10 million to receive 20 or 25 when they retire, you have also contributed towards a sound economy. That will help them get value out of the 30 million when they receive it. As I said earlier, if the economy is so bad, it doesn't matter how much you retire with.
That's right.
We saw it during COVID.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, given the inflationary pressure.
People had money, and the money would just be eaten by an ICU. So, and the people retiring may require that kind of service.
It was not even enough.
Sure. We saw it the other week in this hospital in Kanungu.
Yeah.
So you imagine you have retired in Kanungu, and you get a very slight incidence, slight but can be severe,
shortfalls,
just like it happened to the minister.
Insulin.
The minister was lucky that he could be airlifted.
Yeah.
But what if this was a pensioner who has retired in Kanungu and gets a small incidence, which is life-threatening, but can be managed? So NSSF is supposed to be helping through the government, and that's why the government interest at the Ministry of Finance on investment side to make sure the economy responds.
Yes.
To make sure, to guarantee that when you retire, you are retiring into a vibrant, sufficient, sustainable economy.
Correct.
That will help you have that good life. It's not that I want to go to NSSF and withdraw my 20 million or 100 million. What happens after I have withdrawn it? That state of the economy matters. And I think these are the issues we're not addressing.
That we should be talking about interests. You, Mr. Matua, earlier spoke about the fact that pension funds should be able to sustain investments in a country, especially infrastructure development investments. And of course, he was citing the Asian tigers and where the success stories have been registered.
Yes, sure.
Right now, when you hear that there was a meeting in Kapeka, all of us, those who are privy to some of the information, know, and every Ugandan knows that Kapeka is where General Saleh Kalibak and Anwaho sits.
Yes.
That is where his seat of power is. And the fact that the meeting went ahead in Kapeka and the decisions were made, directives issued, it tells that perhaps General Saleh is a de facto guarantor of the Republic. But that's a question for another day. Now, when
that's a political economy.
That's a political economy, okay.
And the security issues.
Interests. No, what am I coming at here?
I want to respond to it.
What am I driving home? Interests here. If General Saleh and any other person is not working under the aegis of the Ministry of Finance to come and ask or even inquire about the availability of money within the National Social Security Fund, what exactly are we working with right now? You seem to, you spoke about the cartel and the criminal. Is General Saleh part of the cartel and the criminals?
No, he's not.
He's not.
The cartel are those ones that want to target the investment of NSSF and then liaise with the companies and the management to siphon members' saving being invested. You get the point?
Okay.
Yeah. And please, I want to tell countrymen and women that I have evidence, but some of which I will not share in the media for not to prejudice the investigation.
Of course, the petition is
actually, there's a law firm that wrote to managing director NSSF to go ahead and pay the 400 billions for the Nachigalala land. Did you hear about Nachigalala land?
Nachigalala land, I've heard about that.
Yes, the Madivani is selling tea estate in Nachigalala. Madivani's value of the land is 185 billion.
Yes. Government
chief valuer put the land at a value of 245 billion. But the management wanted to pay Madivani 400 billion.
Can we have that? Restate it again. Government.
Madivani is selling the land at 185
billion.
The government chief valuer
says it's
values the land at 245 billion. But the management
at NSSF
want to pay Madivani 400 billion.
In other words, he will pay Madivani, he takes off his 185 and then gets the balance back
to the cartel. Then a law firm, which is on the side of one of the protagonists, goes ahead to write the managing director that pay this 400 billion. Any case which comes as a result of it, we shall win it.
Dr.
Winning
Mumuza,
a case before even it is filed.
This kind of transaction in an economy like ours, reports have been flooding the media about corruption and misuse of funds. Is there any for example, the allegations are being leveled against Mr. Richard Byarugaba. I don't want to go personal because we don't have any evidence against him. Yeah. But when you hear something like that, the management at NSSF must be able to answer this particular question. Why pay 400 billion to a person who has told you the worth of my land is 185? And
of course, as I said earlier, the management will not be answering this question to me and you because we don't know.
We don't.
The board. And we have no idea that there was a 185, there was a 245, and there is a 400. But we are absentee stakeholders.
Yeah.
The entity they are supposed to help us is the board. And that's why I said, so what is the quality of the board?
Very good.
Do you have people who can engage this to say, give me the valuation report of the government valuer, and people on the board can actually read it, or leave alone the board? And that's why now we are being saved by capacities being built in the ministry, which is supposed to be a second tier. The real capacity should be within the fund. Within the board, there should be an investment committee, there should be all those sorts of things to question this, that I can even go and ask and get an idea. How much is an acre in Achigarara? The market value. Then I multiply through with what we're trying to get. As a board, you have that right to pick that information.
That's right.
And for that, I can justify their 4 billion allocated to the board if they are doing some of those extra things, because sometimes you may want to seek an independent valuer's opinion. So that you can make a decision. 400 billion or 185 is worth if you can really make the right decision informed by the good information. So it all goes back to the governance level, that how good and strong is the governance. And as I went back, that's why the Bank of Uganda is so keen on who becomes a board member in the banking sector. Are you able to question the executive in the banking sector? Are you able to question, because many banks which do not have strong boards can easily create risks. And remember, they are having other people's money, just like the fund. So there are quite a number of operational and strategic level issues within the fund, but also, as you've raised, there are also other issues of a strategic nature at the economy level. We have a housing deficit in this country. Where is it? Is it at the top end, where NSSF is investing? Is it at the bottom end? We sit more strongly at the bottom end. So if you're going as NSSF, most of your members don't have more than 10 million.
They don't.
So when you build a house of 600 million, you are not serving your members. You're literally serving another constituency. And maybe a cartel who builds houses is the one skewing you to say, oh, I can build you these units at 400 million. So you're not serving your membership. It would have been good, we said, we can even develop. NSSF is a shareholder in housing finance. This is a housing finance bank by name. Can we move more of NSSF money into housing finance? This is the policy the Minister of Finance can take. About investments, about resolving the housing deficit in the country.
That's right.
So that for all members of NSSF, they get a mortgage of 18 years, 15 years.
Regardless of what level, of how much money you...
Because in any case, they are going to borrow 10 million to build themselves a house of 15 million. Their rent, as of now, could be 300,000. So now they begin to pay off the mortgage using the current rent, but they are now living in their own house.
Very good.
So over time, by the time I retire, I'm retiring into my house. Then the fund has served my purpose. So these are policy levels, but also you're strengthening and growing the economy.
Mr. Batua is itching.
Yes, actually, I want to thank Dr. Muhumuza for bringing that segment, that aspect. You see, NSSF saving must work for the savers. You see, retirement is not one day event.
No.
You must prepare for retirement. What if NSSF is building affordable houses that can be mortgaged to the members, and they keep paying? By the time you retire into a decent house.
And by the way, to add to that, you don't even have to buy land to build these houses. Most of these members already have their land where they stay, in Kanungu, in Bukedea. So they may just want you to help them build that home where they are going to retire. So there is no a cost of 400 or 185 on land purchase. You straight away go into the construction of the house for your members.
Now, additionally, the question of the board.
Very quickly.
I want to agree with Dr. Muhumuza that the board of NSSF, yes, is made up of good people in the public eye, but is a very weak board. I want to say it without any apology whatsoever. If it was a very strong board, these kind of irregularities would have been checked at that level. Now, in the board, there are membership which are questionable. Labor unions have 5 representatives. NOTO and COFTO contribute members there. COF to 2, and then no to 3. And I can tell you, one of the labor unions, the person nominated himself and his girlfriend, not even the wife, to represent the workers on the board of NSSF. They are there. Yeah? A concubine and his Ladit are now there, claiming to represent the interest of the.
My pity goes to the chair. How do you steer such a board?
How do you steer such a board?
Yes. Now, so a compromised board can therefore not defend the interest of the savers. There is a need for the savers actually to know how the membership of the board is determined. In fact, I'm proposing that workers should be gathered at Nambole. People campaign and they select the 5 people to represent them in the board. Because this is a very serious issue.
Savers might not have the ability to decipher who is the best possible board member in terms of technical
if
ability.
the person is not best, then they will have the ability to recall the person. You get the point?
Then you would create a scenario where there is no stability in terms of
don't we have
governance.
why don't we have an enlightened, serious Mr. Higenyi to represent us in the board? You get the point?
I'm honored.
Why don't we have an economist, Dr. Muhumuza, who's enlightened to represent us there?
So I think the crossroads remain.
Yes.
Yeah,
so therefore, I want to say in affirmative. I want to respond in affirmative to his submission that actually it is true. We must deal with the board. Now there's an issue here. In the management of the previous MD, COF2 and NOTO were funded worth 400 million every financial year by NSSF. I want to know, that is almost 1 billion. What is that money doing? This is the reason as to why one of the union leaders got excited and they wrote to demand for 1 billion. I don't know whether you have seen a letter where actually chairman general of a labor union wrote to the managing director listing activities that he or his organization is going to do worth 900 billion, almost 900 million, almost 1 billion. So I want to say that there is also need to deal with the board. The board is not helping.
Dr. Muhumuza, NSSF, right from the time I began to understand matters of political economy, during the time of Zoe Bakoko Bakoru and what followed the crisis on Egio Bell, Chandi Jamwa, the position itself, especially for managing director, seems to be a jinxed one. It is very unlikely that you will finish the term or the terms without finding yourself in troubled waters. Zoe Bakoko Bakoru, wherever she is, spoke about the fact that at least 18 billion Uganda shillings was being siphoned out of NSSF on a monthly basis. Now, when you do the math there, I don't think it was very realistic. Yeah. I think what she meant at the time was
the whole money could have been drained.
Within a few years. What she meant was a lot of money.
Sometimes you exaggerate to make a point.
Not to make the point. When I looked at $5 million on a monthly out of NSSF, we would not be having NSSF right now. But I think the point was clear, that money is being siphoned out of NSSF by people who have interests. And when you look at the Kapeka process, the letter is public. Please, somebody was wondering whether we can even talk about it. It's a public letter. We all understand the meeting took place in Kapeka. This brings to the fore the aspect of civil-military divide and exactly what Mr. Salim Saleh is doing in the whole, inevitably we have to face that question. What is he doing in this?
Yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that Salim Saleh has focused on for quite some time since he came into the space of wealth creation.
Wealth creation, yeah.
After the economy of Uganda.
People may misunderstand that.
Yes.
And we've had conversation to say wealth creation is not just giving agricultural inputs. It is also ensuring security of people. Land grabbing. Most people have their pension stacked up in land. Now you wake up one morning, Matua has taken over your title and your land. So he has been in that space of the connection between security and development.
Yeah.
As a security person, he knows the development is important.
That's right.
Even to sustain your own military, you need a well-endowed economy. If the economy is weak, you're going to have a problem.
But under what mandate?
Now, it's in the office of the president. The operation wealth creation is the office of the president.
Wow.
And that's why office of the president is not like other ministries. It is office of the president.
Yeah.
Quite often they want to lower themselves and look like other ministries. Now, office of the president can summon any other ministries as long as you are giving the brief to the decision maker, the president.
The chief executive.
And it is not only, thank God for Honorable Mongit, right? Very many other people have gone there for discussions of this nature now. The question you may want to ask, was he asking questions for personal interest? They don't seem to be going by Honorable Mongit's letter.
Yeah, that's right.
They seem to be of national interest.
Yes.
He's questioning the things we are questioning here. Why are you investing in properties that you cannot sell? This, for me, are genuine questions in the wealth creation perspective, in the nexus between development and security. Unless there was other conversations, he didn't do like the chairman general of one of the institutes saying, can you send me some 2 billion to fund my activities in Kapeka? He didn't get into that conversation. So I think people may have different views about him, but he wants to be logical and structural to say why in this space. If he's coming from the wealth creation angle, I can understand. Because NSSF, as we've said, is the biggest pot of money we have as a country.
That's right.
Now, how we deploy it is very critical. And I will end with a bit of...
So, in other words, as you end, you are suggesting... No, okay, I shouldn't say you are suggesting. It looks like General Saleh is pretty much concerned about the distribution of this pot of money.
And its role in development.
And its role in Uganda's development.
Can I throw in some light?
Please do.
Countrymen and women, I want to plead with you. Please don't misunderstand General Salimu Saleh. The interest of General Salimu Saleh, as expressed in the minister's letter, are in the interest of the people of Uganda. Is that bad?
Are you sure?
That's the first question. You said you read the letter.
Yes.
Yes. Was he asking for any money to be sent to him in Kapeka for any activity there? No. I can tell the countrymen and women that General Salimu Saleh is one of the few Ugandans who spend time thinking about the wellness of our economy, the wealth of Uganda. NSSF having 17.9 trillion, that money must be effectively utilized to stimulate economic growth of our country. It must create jobs in the economy. We must undertake ventures that protect savers' money, yes, but the money must help the country to develop. And that is what is being done in Asian Tigers I cited for you.
That's right.
Which have 30% of their social security fund saving to the GDP. You get the point? So the allegation, the propaganda around the General Salimu Saleh wanting to take the money is not true. He's not a part of the cartel. In any case, he's very concerned as to why NSSF is investing money in ventures that are not bringing returns to the savers.
Allow me ask you the question,
yes.
And I'm sure anybody out there would ask the question.
Correct.
If General Salimu Saleh is concerned about the economy and wants to be part and parcel of the direction of where the money goes, why shouldn't any other Ugandan who has shown similar interest be given the mandate also to ask such questions?
I petitioned. Am I a minister? No, I have shown interest. And Dr. Muhumuza has explained very well that General Salimu Saleh sits in the president's office. He's a special presidential advisor and in charge, by the way, of Operation Wealth Creation, which is a government program.
All right, gentlemen, we are nearing the final bend of the discussion. One thing can be listed for sure. It cannot be exhausted.
There's something smaller I needed to bring forward here.
What is that?
Countrymen and women, we are well aware of corruption permeating to every segment or every sector of our society. Let us allow the probe to take place. Let us allow the investigation to take place. In any case, the outcome of the investigation will give credibility to the fund.
Okay.
So what is the outcry about the investigation? Why are people trying to prevent the investigation? Are they not trying to act accomplices to corruption tendencies? Everybody in this country unanimously agrees that we have corruption in the country. Then what is the essence of trying to prevent the probe? Allow the probe to go on. Then the outcome will give us the result.
All right.
That we will go with.
What should be more like a final word provident funds across the world. Do we have any benchmarks that we can look at in order to improve the way NSSF becomes the focal point for our economic transformation? We must be able to use that money, no doubt, but the how and the where of investments should be streamlined. Is there anything we can look at and say, here we are, we can follow this?
I think some of these things are very clear out there. It is policy issues, it is strategy of government. The government of Uganda seems to have decided to directly put its hand and borrow from the NSSF to go and do I don't know what.
And this is a government that has a reputation for...
It's because now if the government is, borrowing a 20-year bond at 17-18%, NSSF will invest there. Now, other governments avoid that kind of thing, as I've said, and they would say, I could have a conversation. Why should I borrow from NSSF to go and invest in Uganda Development Bank? I am borrowing from NSSF at 18%, investing in Uganda Development Bank, and expect it to lend at 12%. You have already made a loss. The policy decision there could be, as we said with housing finance, NSSF go and invest in UDB. I would say you shares. Now, they put in equity, which would now come in at a lower rate, and they would get interested in the performance of the Uganda Development Bank. So those are some of the policy decisions you can make, that what are the best channels in which you can translate this or shift this 17.9 trillion fund to go and really serve in the economy in a good governance structure. Because remember, if I got 5 trillion of NSSF and put it in UDB, now the burden has shifted to 2 boards. The board of NSSF and the board of UDB. And all of them are distanced a little bit from the politics. The politics will have a firewall. They look in there, eyes on but hands off. Now, these are the governance issues. So for me, it is governance stupid. It is a question of leadership. We are now discussing the symptoms of a leadership issue. Can we fix the leadership of these strategies and the economy? Then we'll be there.
Talking about leadership and the renewal of a contract for Richard Byarugaba, that one, the modalities of the law do not allow him to. Right now, if you are, for example, and this is a one-off, if you are to say, we want a new managing director for NSSF.
Actually, at the time I left the Ministry of Finance, 2014, Honorable Maria Chwanuka was my immediate supervisor at the time, at the political level and technical. We said, when these 10 years end, renewable ones, or whatever it is, open it up for debate. So at that point, we opened it up and said, advertise the positions. And the positions were advertised. One of the people at the time had even said, we don't need a deputy managing director. Can you imagine somebody saying you don't need a deputy managing? Where is your succession plan? What if the managing director wakes up one morning and is sick or dead or anything has happened, he's found a better job? You need a deputy managing director. So there were all those governance issues, but which people want to tilt to suit certain individuals. As I said with the police, they don't know who is in which car. These days people want to violate and put lights in their grills. No, it's supposed to be clearance of cars regardless of who is in. The only car with the right is an ambulance. We'll know who is in there.
That's right.
And a few other things. Don't ring fence and begin to move the law around in order to protect certain individuals. Let the law prevail. As you say, let the investigations prevail. Let the laws that appoint and put
okay, Mr. Matua, you shared the clustered points on the petition. You stopped at number 6.
Now, before I go there, there is something very important I need to put forward.
Please do, very quickly.
You see, workers must take interest in the strategic investment plan of NSSF. My brother, this business of saying I will just get a lump sum at a steady age is deceptive. Money is more useful now than it will be in the future.
Which is part of the midterm access.
Dr. Muhumuza, who is a reputable and a respected economist, has explained to countrymen and women that if you have 10,000 today and 10,000 20 years to come, they will have different values.
Yes, that's right.
My grandmother, may her soul rest in peace, Helen Angudaro, told me they were buying a bull at 100 shilling. Today, what can 100 shilling do?
Not
it can't even buy a small piece of meat of a bull. So actually,
piece of meat. All right.
So therefore, therefore, the idea of saying the money should remain there untouched, that money must be invested in our economy, that money must help Uganda gain financial independence, that money should attract bigger interest for the members.
There's something we need to disabuse. There are people who are convinced NSSF money must not be touched. They do not understand the modalities under which it should be touched.
It shouldn't be touched by the wrong hands.
By the wrong
or
hands.
with dirty hands.
With dirty hands.
Yes.
But it should be touched.
Yes.
No doubt about that. It's able
or it should be allowed to touch the economy.
To touch the
economy. Then we can touch the economy.
In fact, Dr. Muhumuza can bring that effectively.
Yeah.
The idea is that this money should be invested in the economy wisely without getting lost, but attract and create more jobs, span our economic growth, and then earn more returns for the members.
All right, let me fight.
I wanted to develop some. I wanted to bring something very clearly here. There's that accusation in the media and in the public arena that why is it that Mr. Ayota Patrick, the deputy managing director, now the acting MOD, is 62 years old and was reappointed. And why is it that Mr. Biarogaba Richard, who is 61 years, is not reappointed? So that it makes people to draw an arbitrary conclusion as if Mr. Biarogaba has a direct conflict with the minister. Countrymen and women, let me put this right before you. When the contract of Mr. Ayota expired, before that one of Mr. Biarogaba, Solicitor General issued a legal opinion to the effect that he has attained the 60 years mandatory retirement age and should, if any, be reappointed on a contract not exceeding 3 years by law.
In other words, in his acting capacity right now, he will not exceed 3 years.
Very good. And the Minister of Labor went ahead and issued a 2 years contract.
To Mr. Patrick
reappointment contract to Mr. Patrick Ayota. Now, when Mr. Biarugaba's contract expired in November 2022, the minister again sought for legal opinion.
Yeah.
Solicitor General maintained the early opinion he had given.
In the reappointment of...
yes.
Which is a misnomer.
Yes. So now, Attorney General issued another contrary legal opinion to the effect that both men should be given 5 years full time of contract. Now that is also something I want the lawyers to explain. I'm not a lawyer. I want them to understand the context and the interest in which Attorney General gave that legal opinion to overrule the opinion of Solicitor General. The minister, let me bring this forward.
Quickly.
Mr. Biarugaba would have been reappointed as guided by Attorney General. But the law, the act, section 40, that mandates the minister to appoint the MOD, goes ahead to say on a performance. This Mr. Biarugaba was already having questions raised in the petitions to the minister, the petition to the president. Please don't appoint this man, first probe him. So that is the context in which this thing was done.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let us allow the probe to take place.
Yes.
If he's clean, he will get his contract.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matua. I would be remiss if I do not ask Dr. Muhumuza to quickly give us economic outlook and prospects for 2023. We need some bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. One of my political supervisors, Professor Surma, said, whenever they say there is light at the end of the tunnel, watch out. It might be the train coming the other way from the tunnel. It's too early to tell. I see we are expecting a recession at the global level, and that will also affect Uganda. But some recessions now are coming in different ways. Technically, you can be in a recession, like the American economy went into a recession, but was creating more jobs. So he said, much as we are in a recession technically, the economy is creating jobs.
Is growing.
Now, you might come to African economies, Uganda in particular, which is not in a recession, but is not creating jobs.
That's right.
So it's not just one parameter to use. We are also watching the hidden battle between the American government and the Chinese.
China.
These are the two world's largest economies. When they get a cough, we don't just sneeze, we fall sick. So we are watching that battle because the Americans are touching the chips world.
Yeah.
China has been importing the chips technology and chip making. Over time, I know China will get over that. They will make their own. But as of now, they are not getting the chips they need. And remember, the companies that were making them were surviving on selling their chips and their technology to China.
That's right.
Now, with that blockage, those companies will also suffer. But who else is going to suffer? A lot of the economies now are run by chips. So we are having that risk as
when
well.
you say you simplify that for my uncle in Butaleja, an economy run by chips, that's technology.
Of course, it's technology, IT,
Yeah,
that
IT.
in their phone, it's chips that are working in there.
That is right.
These electronic cars and other cars we are using, when you go for a scan, basically you are running chips. When you say, oh, the world is running at that technology. We are yet to see the effect of that.
In a country where
Winter is still going on.
where the sound of chips is popular, somebody must totally misunderstand.
So we are unable at this point to confidently give a projection of what 2023 is going to look like. And that's why IMF keeps saying, I have downgraded, I have upgraded, I have downgraded. So even in Uganda, can we have that conversation to say, don't give false hope when things are still evolving?
What is your outlook?
Yeah, countrymen and women, I call upon you, especially my fellow workers, members serving with NSSF. Let us take the matter of NSSF very seriously. I request the Parliament to come in. The silence of Parliament is almost criminal. It's very loud. The people representing us in the House of Representatives must get concerned. And accordingly, my interest in this NSSF matter is the interest of the workers, is the interest of our economy, which is the interest of my country and my continent, consistent with my political, with my philosophy, political ideology, and the modus operandi of a better Uganda for all. God bless you. May God bless Uganda. May God bless Africa.
Job Richard Matua, many thanks for the insight and sharing much of the information that makes the bulk of the petition that at least 100 workers have petitioned NSSF to ensure that a probe is undertaken into what is reported to be mismanagement and abuse of public funds. And many thanks to you too, Dr. Fred Muhumuza, renowned economist and researcher, for what is no doubt very good insight in as far as that is concerned. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, everybody, as we continue.
Thank you very much, viewers.
That will do it for Morning at NTV this Tuesday. It's been a pleasure having your company. Now, before we go,